Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Facebook Live where I'm going to be doing today, inshallah. I'll let you guys just hop on, say your salams, and introduce yourself in the chat. Inshallah, I'll look at the comments here. So, really excited about this Facebook Live. It's on a topic that I love speaking to, and it's so foundational for building a healthy relationship. So, I'm just checking on the other phone to make sure the connection's good. Say your salams in the chat. Let me know where you're joining in from on this beautiful Saturday, inshallah. Who do we have here with us? So say your salams. Today's topic is about cultivating friendship in marriage, and this is a module that I cover in the newest Discover You course, The Marriage That Led to Jannah. You've got 4 days left to register, inshallah, and this is an amazing program because we put together 7 experts who have come and spoken on different layers that it takes to build and cultivate, inshallah, a really healthy, strong marriage. So I'm very excited about that and to be part of it. So I'm doing the module that is about loving, being in love, and what that means, and just kind of tying together all those loose ends, inshallah, and building a foundation which is really based on friendship. And that's what I'm going to be speaking about today. So say your salams in the chat before we get started. And I'm going to be covering this in the next 30 minutes. And I'm also going to do some questions as well, inshallah. So you can ask that in the chat. If you have questions directly about the program, I'd be happy to answer that as well. And, it's so funny because we focus on like so many other aspects of what it means to have a healthy marriage. Usually it's communication or conflict. And we don't realize that the base for all of those things is actually having a friendship in our marriage. And one of the beautiful prophetic examples that I love coming back to is just the first revelation when it came. Who did the Prophet ﷺ first go to seeking comfort, seeking consultation? It was his wife Khadija radhanha, right? And it was not just because she was his wife, but because the Prophet ﷺ truly turned to her for that comfort, for that solace, for that support, and everything that comes in a beautiful, deep friendship. And they had that, and it was a springboard for him to, seek strength from and continue in his mission. So for us to understand that the basis for a strong marriage doesn't just start with having healthy communication or healthy conflict styles, but really creating a ground for friendship to grow, planting seeds, inshallah, in our marriage that allow a strong, deep, nurturing friendship to be cultivated. So that's what I'm going to be speaking about today. How do we foster a marriage that is God-centered and have the skills to develop that friendship even if we don't have it? And if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, I've been married, 15 years, I've been married 20 years, we've got this, or we're best friends, or we're not, but we make it work. Well, the reality is that oftentimes divorce isn't because of increased conflicts. It's often because of the distance that's grown, the lack of emotional, intellectual, and deep intimacy that comes with that and friendship. It's a lack of that in a marriage that leads to divorce. It's not just conflict. So that's really important to understand. And a lot of us get it wrong, or a lot of us just continue in, half-hearted type friendships and think, well, that's all we need. So let's dive in, inshallah. And, it's really important to understand that it's not uncommon for friendship to be neglected. A lot of times, especially when I work with couples who have been married and have kids, and life just happens, and without intentionally even realizing it, due to the busyness, making or fostering friendship in our marriage takes a backseat. And when that goes ignored for so long, we see other things come up as a result of that. And it can take away from really a greater opportunity to enrich our marriage and give us strength through that. So inshallah, I'm going to be sharing 5 tips on how to cultivate friendship in your marriage. And before I do that, I really want to talk about the importance of cultivating friendship and also what an unhealthy friendship looks like, because I think that's a really important to address as well. Sometimes we have this unhealthy perception of what a friendship should be, and that's really not something that you want to cultivate or fall into, because that can be burdensome as well. And studies show that couples who have a deep friendship tend to have more higher marital satisfaction and more intimacy in their marriage. So by having that relationship and bond, it actually alhamdulillah, ripples out into really positive ways as well. So it should be a priority. It should be something that you cultivate, because by having that deep friendship, it also allows you to, inshallah, be better parents, be better in your roles as husband and wife, as members of our community as well. And that's really beautiful as well, because when our spouse, and I'm looking at my notes, if you see me looking down, I want to make sure I don't miss my points that I want to cover. So when a spouse, deeply connects with us, we feel like we can reach the sky. And I'm sure you guys feel that. The days that my husband and I don't have maybe that deep connection, or we go into a conflict, or something's just off, I don't even feel like working out, right? It affects me. And I'm sure it affects you as well when you have that with your spouse. Whereas the same person who allows us to soar can also bring us down. It could be a slight conflict, it can be just turning away from one another, really being careless in our remarks. And this closeness of this friendship comes with sensitivity. So when you're able to establish this deep friendship and nurture that, it actually helps in the way you fight as well. Because couples who have deeper friendships fight fair. You don't, oftentimes conflict will surface when a need is not being met, or you're stressed and it's coming out in a negative way. But when you have a deep friendship, you don't fight in a way where you're trying to hurt each other. You have emotional, intellectual intimacy kind of down, and you're connected that way. So your fights are actually less damaging and provide a cushion for when those things happen. So friendship nurtures and allows those conflicts to fall, inshallah, not as hard as they could for a couple who don't have marital friendships. So that's really important to understand. And then to emphasize, what does an unhealthy friendship look like and what we should be aware of. So an example of unhealthy friendship is when we put so much emphasis on that one person. When we expect our spouse to be the person who's our confidant, who is our just go-to for everything. And this creates a lot of unnecessary pressure, and the reality is your marriage won't be able to withstand that kind of pressure in a marriage, right? And so your friendship shouldn't be where your spouse is everything for you. More and more we're addressing how our expectations of marriage have changed, and we expect from our spouse what a village used to give to us. So this is really important to understand, that as we tend to become more isolated in our communities now, and tend to just, be at home more, or social circles are not what they used to be, we're expecting our spouse to deliver all of that. And that can create a big strain on your spouse, on your relationship, because those expectations are not realistic and won't be met. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for a friendship with your spouse? What are attributes that are important to you? And are you balancing it with other things? We should have friends outside of our marriage as well, of the same gender, that you seek that support and that nourishment from as well. And that's important to keep in mind. So not having just one person that you go to for that marital friendship. So we've just had a few new people join. Welcome. This session is about cultivating friendship in your marriage, and how that is really the breeding ground for other healthy aspects of your marriage to be nurtured, and inshallah, healthier communication, healthier conflict. It all starts with having a really strong, deep friendship with your spouse. And if you're newlywed, this is definitely of benefit to you, but also if you've been married 15 plus years, often those are the couples that I tend to get who are struggling and don't remember what that phase was like, or how to go to dinner and actually have deep conversations without just staring at each other. So this is a module that I cover in the course, The Marriage That Led to Jannah, the newest program by Discover You. You have 4 days left to register for it, so do take advantage, and you have lifetime access. This is honestly a course that no matter what season of your marriage you're at, you definitely need. You get, mashallah, 7 experts and people who work in this area. You get the spiritual aspect coupled with the research aspect, and it's just a beautiful combination, alhamdulillah, something our community direly needs, and is going to be a beautiful resource, something you can keep coming back to in your marriage. So definitely sign up. The marriage that led to Jannah, and the website's going to be in the comment section, so you can register there as well. All right, so continuing on this topic, how to cultivate a happy marriage, and where does that start? So I covered how you don't want the unhealthy aspect of a friendship is where you're just completely putting all of your emotional, intellectual needs on one person, and that's not healthy, because that's way too much pressure for one person to handle and meet, and you're going to be disappointed. It's going to actually lead to more conflict. So you want a healthy balance, inshallah. And also the big benefit of having a deep friendship is that you fight better. You fight, your conflicts are not going to be as detrimental to your marriage as they would be if you didn't have a deep friendship. So that's really great as well, alhamdulillah, and inshallah what we all want to do, right? So we can talk about communication, we can talk about conflict, but the reality is that base that's first needed is having that deep friendship. So I'm going to be sharing 5 beautiful ways that you can cultivate friendship in your marriage. And there's so many more that I could do, and I do cover in the module, but these are just 5 that we're going to focus on. Number 1 is really knowing your spouse. And you might feel like, well, we know each other, we've been married so long, or, we've asked all the questions. No matter how long you've been married, there's always going to be something you can find out about your spouse. I've been married, alhamdulillah, 13 years, and I can tell you we still have conversations where I'm like, wow, we didn't know that, or we're exploring this, and really that's what it means to be a best friend to your spouse, where you're continuously asking each other, hey, I didn't know that about you, or why is it that you always do that? And they link it back to something else. And one thing that it's really funny, I used to hate when I got married was how everyone would be sharing that, I married my best friend, or he's my best friend. And I was like, well, I don't feel that yet. And obviously, alhamdulillah, with our Islamic tradition, we don't date. So, you get to know the person for that purpose of marriage. Maybe you knew them beforehand. But it takes time to nurture and really build what a friendship is. And so I would say it took probably 3 years after being married for me to say, yes, my husband is my best friend. It takes work. It takes investment. It takes emotional investment. So I think it's very important not to compare yourself, not to feel like there's something wrong with your marriage if you don't have that friendship. It's something that you might get, years down the road, but it's a continual effort, and it doesn't stop, because if you do stop, and that's what a lot of couples, like I was saying earlier, when they have kids and life gets busy, cultivating that friendship really takes a backseat. And it's like any friendship in your life. If you aren't continuously meeting up, checking in with each other, that person just becomes an acquaintance. There's a gap created. You don't know what they've been up to in the last few years. And that can start to be detrimental, right? And you don't want that to happen in your marriage. So number 1 in cultivating a strong friendship in your marriage, inshallah, is really being vigilant about being curious with your spouse. Asking questions and allowing that to happen when there's safety in the relationship. When your spouse feels safe around you, when they don't feel judged, they're able to open up and let you ask those questions. They're able to be curious about you. So creating, that safe space. So 1 is recognizing that friendship building takes a lot of work, and you start by allocating some time. So what I hear often from couples is, well, we've just got so much going on. How do we even start? And it's about the small steps. I'm all about pushing small steps that lead to big change, right? And subhanAllah, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the acts that are small and consistent. And that's with friendship. So how do you do it? Carve out 15 minutes. Start with 15 minutes twice a week. If that, every day is too hard. Let's say 15 minutes twice a week where you establish this time for connection. So you're not talking about errands. You're not talking about things that you got to do coming up, or the bills that, need to be paid, or who's going to take who to the kids' activities. This is just time for you two to connect and check in with each other. Focus on questions that deal with your husband or wives, your wife's highs and lows. What were some great moments in the week, in the month, in the year, whatever it may be, but addressing, what are some lessons you took away from that? Considering each other's dreams. What are some things that you really want to aspire for? What's the legacy you want to leave? These are the kind of deep questions that cultivate really beautiful discussions. And these are questions, the answers that keep changing. So that would be number 1. Carve out at a time, and you protect that time with your life. So schedule it, like, okay, every Tuesday, Thursday, no matter what, after the kids go to sleep or whatever time it is that works for both of you, you carve out 15 minutes and you're going to just sit and you're going to, inshallah, connect with each other that way. So that's really important, number 1. And number 2, how to cultivate friendship in your marriage, explore the interests of your spouse. And this is so key, because if you just accept that, we're very different, we have nothing in common, he likes that, she likes this, I just don't care for it. And so you're kind of living 2 parallel lives, almost like roommates. That can be detrimental as well. So inshallah, what you want to do is find what your spouse is passionate about and how you can take part in that. And that takes sacrifice, and that's okay as well. Inshallah, the more you start to slowly show interest, and maybe you may find you really enjoy that too. And it's a happy medium, right? There were things in my marriage that took a lot of time for us to find each other's passions, and then start sacrificing and showing interest so we could connect and bond on that, and that really helps. So find out what the passions are of your spouse, inshallah, and start taking part in it. Not everything, but at least even one or two is a great way to cultivate that friendship and bond through it. Number 3, take time to find common interests. So now you know what each other's passions are, but what are things that you can meet on and really enjoy? Something that could be almost like a ritual you create in your family, something that you both look forward to. Simple things like walks, it could be hikes. It's like you both love going to the bookstore. Maybe there's just a type of food you really enjoy. That could be like a restaurant that you get to go to together. So find something that you have in common. And oftentimes I'll hear especially young couples who will be like, well, we have nothing in common. I don't know how to connect on that. And so it's really important to have that conversation of how, what are common interests you both have that you could, inshallah, share and enjoy in together, and find that commonality and build that. So starting somewhere, and we all have things in common. So I think when couples speak in the languages of we absolutely have nothing, or those ideals, it's really important not to get caught up in that. So third is taking the time to find interests you both have in common. 4 is establishing daily habits. This is so important. Rituals help us give stability. They're things that we look forward to. And it's so important to, inshallah, cultivate that. And they don't have to be big rituals, just small things. So simple, beautiful thing is praying together. When you're praying together, not only are you drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there's more ajr in praying together. It's a beautiful way of modeling things for, what a healthy couple should look like for your children. There's so much beauty in coming together and remembering Allah. So that's one thing. And it's important that when we're constantly, doing small gestures for our spouse, together, we're creating emotional connections as well. So by building small daily habits together, be it, you cook together, or maybe you volunteer, these are opportunities for you to build connection through those small acts as well. And it's really beautiful. So it's seeking opportunity in those small connections, inshallah. Number 5 is affirm one another every day. Again, simple, beautiful act, which goes under the radar and we don't realize the impact of it, is really taking the time, being intentional in communicating your strengths and your spouse's strengths to them, right? It's important to not, and this is what, again, a lot of couples who've been married for a long time just kind of take it for granted. Oh, alhamdulillah, my husband wakes up early and he, prepares the food for the kids before they go out, or my wife is just really great at scheduling, and so she just takes that on. And so you may just take these things for granted, where it's really important to still pause and acknowledge one another and appreciate that as well. So showing affection and appreciation regularly, right? And it's just small gestures and moments. And I covered this in an earlier Facebook Live as well. But when, the life stress piles up, it's really nice to hear from your spouse. Hey, I know today you were running late, but you still took that time to make the lunch for the kids. And I really appreciated that. And watch how that goes a long way. It could be a simple message where you check in with one another, like, hey, I know you're going to be working late. Do you need me to pick up some groceries? I know that you've got a long day ahead of you, right? It's these small gestures that allow friendship, because friendship is essentially letting each other know, I've got your back and I'm going to show up. And those are actually the 3 guiding principles I really want you to keep in mind as you start forming friendships, inshallah, and cultivating a deeper friendship with your spouse. So the 3 guiding principles you always want to ask yourself, am I showing this? Is I know you, I like you, and I'll be there for you. And that last one is about action. It's constantly showing up in small ways that tells your spouse, I got your back and I'm going to be here for you. So again, the 3 guiding principles you want to, inshallah, be giving to your spouse and as you nurture friendship in your marriage is, I know you, I like you, and I'll be there for you. So I know you is about that, asking questions, getting curious, really listening when your spouse is speaking to you, and showing that you want to know, the map of your spouse. You want to, inshallah, fill that up with the knowledge and gain as much knowledge as you can about your spouse. To I like you. This is in the ways that we interact, the affirmations that we give, the validation, and inshallah, showing up in beautiful ways. And the third one, that I'll be there for you, is in those small acts that we continuously do for our spouse that allows us to show, you can trust me. I'm going to be here for you, just like any good friendship would be. So really cool, simple activity I would love for you to sit down with your spouse and do this week is write down the attributes that are important to you in a friendship. What are values that you cherish in your friends that you would like to see in your spouse and in yourself? And then asking and, exchange those answers with your spouse and ask, how can I show these or build these attributes in our friendship? And are they there right now, and which one's missing, right? So do kind of like a reference check with your spouse and be like, hey, I feel like, yeah, you're really dependable, or you do this really well. So exchange that list with each other, and that's a great way to start as well, inshallah. All right, as we are going to continue and kind of wrapping up as well, inshallah, and I'm going to recap, I want to again share the course, The Marriage That Led to Jannah. So alhamdulillah, we've got 7 experts on for this course, really amazing module titles, and you can go to the website, it's in the comment section, and you're going to get to see the diverse area of topics that we have, mashallah, for this course. And I think that's really important to point out, because oftentimes you'll have like a marriage course or something related to marriage that really covers only one facet, which it's really important to remember that it's not one thing that changes your marriage. It's not one thing that's just going to pivot everything around for us. And unfortunately, that's kind of the lie that we buy into, that, if we just work on communication, or if we just master conflict, that should fix everything. The reality is it takes a lot of small steps in different areas to cultivate a healthy, holistic Muslim marriage. And inshallah, one that brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gets us to Jannah. And that's really what was important to us in designing this course, is covering all those areas. And alhamdulillah, having, obviously the shayukh on, even sisters that are on this course, and, students of knowledge, people who have that Allah-centered approach to their work and the services that they provide. So we've coupled all of that together to bring you a really incredible resource, and essentially the marriage toolbox that you're going to keep coming back to. And you have lifetime access to this course, which is amazing. There's activities, there's bonuses. We're going to have a private Facebook group that allows you to interact, inshallah, with the knowledge, with each other on this path. And it's not just for married people. I can't emphasize the importance of, if you're single, you're never too early in starting that path on how to cultivate healthy relationships, inshallah, especially in the light of marriage. So it's for, if you're single, this is a great investment for you. And if you're married, this is definitely an important investment. This is something that, inshallah, can help you really turn things around. This is your opportunity to stop kind of being passive about your growth and passive about the struggles that you're having in your marriage, but really, inshallah, being proactive. And it's done in a way that, you don't need to put yourself out there. I know it's still really taboo. People feel so almost insecure about discussing these issues. Alhamdulillah, we've crafted in a way that allows you to feel safe and really learn with your spouse, interact on live Q&As that we have with, inshallah, the instructors, where you can ask questions, and Facebook group where you can support each other's growth as well. And we've also got a book that you're going to be getting, which is beautiful, inshallah, that's part of the bonuses and included in this program. And we have a love challenge. So after you complete the full course, inshallah, you're actually going to be getting a 7-day love challenge that's going to help you implement and go through activities together and really foster and nurture that spirit of having like hope and gratitude in your marriage, inshallah, and coming closer for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and really nurturing a beautiful marriage, inshallah. And I promise that you will, if you implement the course and just take those baby steps, you're going to see a change in your marriage. You're going to see a shift in the way you approach your relationship with your spouse. So I'm really excited and passionate about this topic, because I truly believe that's where we see change in our ummah and in our community. So the link is in the registration. It closes December 5th, so you've got a few days left. Don't, let this go by. You have an opportunity to make that investment, inshallah, and this is something that's going to keep returning dividends. And, it's just a beautiful resource that I haven't come across in the Muslim community that's online. So alhamdulillah, you have that opportunity. So the topic for today was cultivating friendship in your marriage, and I covered 5 steps on how to do that, inshallah, the importance of having friendship and how that's a base for everything else that comes in cultivating a healthy relationship, inshallah. So I'm going to quickly recap what were the 5 things. One was recognizing that friendship takes work, and it starts with being curious about your spouse. So we emphasize the importance, inshallah, of knowing your spouse well. And that means always, asking each other those questions, getting curious about one another, carving time out to actually do that and make it a priority. And and remembering it is the second half of it. So asking and remembering as well. Number 2 was exploring interests of your spouse. So knowing that there's certain passions they have and you want to show interest, because that's what friendship is based on. Showing interest in what they want to do, inshallah. And that requires a bit of sacrifice, but it could mean a lot to your spouse. My husband loves to watch hockey. Alhamdulillah, he's very moderate in it, but I'm not a hockey fan, but I do watch like the playoffs, or I'll, carve out a little bit of time to make sure I watch it and show interest in what he's doing. And I know it means a lot to him. So it requires a bit of sacrifice, but it means a lot to him, right? And similarly, he does things that I enjoy that maybe he's not crazy about. So it's finding those little things that mean a lot to your spouse and sharing in it. The third one was finding common interests. So it's easy to say, oh, we have nothing in common, but unless you actually sit and explore certain things, you will find that there are some common underlying things you can find and take part in together to cultivate friendship. So that was number 3. And number 4 was establishing daily habits together. So that could be praying together. It could be small or large ways where you get to connect, being like ritual. So cooking dinner together, volunteering together. These are beautiful ways to connect, inshallah. And it's these small connections that really create a beautiful opportunity in your marriage for you to connect in friendship. And I emphasized how important it is to have friendship as a base, because when conflict does happen, it provides a really good cushion. And studies show that couples who do have a deep friendship tend to fight better. They don't hurt each other, whereas couples who don't have a deep friendship, they're much more aggressive and unfortunately negative in the way they speak to one another when conflicts do arise. And couples who do have a strong deep friendship tend to have higher intimacy as well. So it's a ripple effect of having a friendship. So that's really important. And the last one, number 5, was affirming one another every day. So this means not taking each other for granted. Really, no matter how many years you've been married, it always feels good to hear your spouse say they appreciate something you're doing, and it's showing up and really telling them, I've got your back, I'm cheering you on, I recognize and I'm paying attention to the small things you do, and I really appreciate it, right? So really verbalizing it. And I did share that the 3 guiding principles you want to keep, inshallah, as you cultivate friendship is, I know you, I like you, and I'll be there for you. And that's verbally and physically in making sure you express that you're showing up for one another. All right, so I want to leave an opportunity just to take some questions from you guys as well. And inshallah, then I'll share a few closing thoughts. So, Assalamu alaikum, Naima, welcome. How about ignoring each other for a long time? So I'm not sure what you mean by the question, like if that's something that's happening. So that, if it's happening, that means that, the communication there's something broken in terms of the communication gap. But that once you, inshallah, can start those baby steps of cultivating a friendship, it allows you to not have a conflict that gets to the point where that's for a long period. And it's a vague question, so I don't know if you mean like you're ignoring each other for days, or just right after a fight, or during a fight. So if you could maybe clarify, be more specific with that. Anyone else who's on right now that you have a question, it could be about the program or about the topic as well. So cultivating friendship or the Marriage That Led to Jannah program. And the link, thank you for sharing that, Maya. So that's in the comment section where you can go and register there. You have 2 installment options. You can pay over 30 days in 2 payments. And alhamdulillah, it's a program that you get to go at your own pace. So you don't have to worry about going through everything right away. You have lifetime access to that. Not talking to each other for more than a month. So yeah, that's something that you definitely, it's a result of other things that are not happening. So I would say focus, inshallah, on starting with those baby steps, right? Just focus on maybe carving out time to start talking to each other in a way of building each other's map. So getting curious, building that friendship, asking each other questions. That's really important. as a base. If that's not happening, then you can't add the other layers. So number one would be just start carving out time where you're really asking each other questions to get curious about one another, about each other's highs and lows, the legacy you want to leave, the dreams you have. These are beautiful questions to start creating deep connection. But that usually is a byproduct of other things that aren't happening. Mohotarima, you ask, how about neglecting your spouse every time a fight occurs? Okay, so these are conflict-related questions, and I can't emphasize enough when that base layer of friendship that's missing. Oftentimes, having, like I said, more aggressive and long, drawn-out conflicts can be a result of that base not being there. So I really can't emphasize that enough. I would say just for the sake of obviously Facebook Live, and I can't do like a personal session based on just that question because there's so many more dynamics, I would say start with just building, inshallah, a friendship that starts with asking each other questions and connecting in meaningful ways. So that's something small you can start and take action on. Start with that. And you can just Google Love Map Questions by Dr. Gottman, and that will give you a list of beautiful questions you can start, implementing in the 15 minutes you carve out once a week or a couple times a week. So I would say start with that, inshallah. Khan asks, are there any practical steps couples can take towards amicable conflict resolution? It's such a good question, and there's not one single thing you can do. And it's really when other layers and foundational layers are missing, that communication, understanding of certain conflicts that are going to keep happening, it's getting to a place where, inshallah, you can still communicate in a healthy way and have understanding around it. That helps. So it's a loaded question because we're so dynamic, and there's certain problems that are never going to be solved in a marriage. That's the reality. But it's how do we discuss it? How do we come to understand it and get to a place where we can still move on, inshallah, and have healthy communication around it, but know that we're going to disagree on that. And sometimes that's because of personality. It could be certain values, family history we bring into it, but it's getting to a place of happiness. So and then again, there's layers that have to be added, inshallah, in your marriage, in your relationships. You can get to that point where that healthy discussion happens. There's a whole module in the course on conflict, and obviously all the other modules complement that. So that's really important to understand that. You can't just talk about conflict alone without talking about other aspects that are so, really important, foundational for the healthy conflict to take place, or to really address conflict in a way that, inshallah, it gets to a place of, a healthy conflict into a place where it can be resolved, or you can move on from it in a way that is not traumatic, and inshallah healing as well. And also how to deal with a partner who struggles with anger management, how to support them, and how to address the root cause. Beautiful question, loaded question, because there's so much internal work sometimes that needs to be done, and needs that need to be addressed, that sometimes the person who needs it doesn't even realize. And anger can sometimes, in certain research, said it's a secondary emotion when needs aren't being met, and there can be a lot of underlying actions for it as well. There's actually a great module that Sister Manahal does on attachment and not losing yourself in the course, and that can really help in understanding where that anger is coming from as well, and doing an individual assessment of yourself and where you lie in that, and then inshallah, for you to exchange that with your spouse. So that module will really help in that as well. And we also have 3 live Q&As where you're going to be able to ask direct questions, inshallah, specific to you. So that's really a great opportunity on it. Okay, so I'm going to close off. It's good to, alhamdulillah, we had good discussion. You guys got introduced to some of the topics that are going to be addressed in this course, and just the importance of friendship. It's so important in a marriage. It's such a key, alhamdulillah, to building a marriage that, inshallah, will bring you peace and sakina and truly be that vehicle to Jannah that you want it to, that we all want our marriages to be, right? And it takes work. And alhamdulillah, it's one of the most rewarding and enriching relationships, and it doesn't come easy. But when you, inshallah, invest in it, when you make it a priority to continuously grow, inshallah, in your marriage, beautiful things happen. And it takes time. Growing a friendship, deep friendship in your marriage is not something that you can just master and then stop. It's continuous. And it's continuously coming back to exploring, investing, showing your partner that I'm choosing you and I'm going to make that time for you and you're important to me, right? Just like any friend does to us, just getting a random message, a kind gesture, all these things that we expect from strangers or that we get from, friends who are obviously on our spouse, but when our spouse does it, it's so much more impactful. So it's showing up in the same way and knowing what we value in that as well. So I hope to see you guys on the course. You've got 5 days to register. I'd love to see you on there. Alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful, beautiful project and something that has been missing, I think, from our community, and really having conversations around it and safe spaces where we can accept that we don't have a perfect marriage, but it's okay because we're all working on that path. And that's what this course is all about. So I hope to see you there, inshallah. Link is in the registration, in the comment box. So definitely register there, and I'll see you guys in the course. All right, thank you for being with me today, and I hope you guys have an awesome Saturday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.